I am the Sleepless Bard. Tonight we gather not to hear a sweet tale of star-crossed lovers, not to weep over a tragedy of youthful passion thwarted. No, forget the pretty lies whispered in courtyards. The story of Layla and Majnun is not a lament. It is an accusation, a mirror held up to the cold, polished stone we call a heart. You think you know this tale? You think it is about the madness of love? You are wrong. Tonight I strip bare the soul of this story, revealing the furnace that burns at its core. A furnace that consumes not just two hearts, but the very foundations of the world we build to keep such fires contained. I promise you, by the embers of this fire and the dust of forgotten empires, you will see Layla and Majnun not as victims, but as avatars of a truth so raw it terrifies us into calling it madness. Watch how this reveals the prison we mistake for safety. It began as all true things do with innocence. Not ignorance, mind you, but the pure, unmediated recognition of a soul by its echo. Gaze and Layla, children in a schoolroom, thick with the drone of lessons. But their lesson was written in glances, in the shared breath across a shared tablet. Observe what happens when the world hasn't yet taught the heart to fear itself. They drank the wine of recognition before they knew its name, intoxicated by a scent they couldn't name, a flower blooming unseen within their own chests. This wasn't youthful folly. It was the first fatal glimpse of the divine spark that seeks its twin. The world, of course, cannot tolerate such naked truth. It must be veiled, categorized, controlled. See how the pointing fingers begin, the whispers like serpents in the sand. Look at them. See how they look. It is not right. The poison of propriety drips into the wellspring. The lovers awaken not to joy, but to the bars of a cage they hadn't seen being built around them. Their glances, once pure communion, become furtive signals, their shared silence a conspiracy against the watching world. The fire is lit, and the first response is to smother it with shame, and so they are torn apart. Layla, the moon, is locked behind the high walls of tribal honor, her light dimmed to a prisoner's flicker behind heavy curtains. Kais. Kais. Watch how this reveals the world's convenient label for what it cannot comprehend. He walks the alleys, tears like molten silver on his cheeks, singing his agony to the uncaring walls. They see the torn robes, the wild hair, the eyes fixed on an invisible horizon. Majnun, they cry, the madman. They name his truth a disease, his pain a spectacle, his poetry. Oh, the bitter irony. They memorize even as they spit on the source. See the human contradiction laid bare, drawn to the flame of authentic feeling, yet terrified of its heat. They weep at his verses, these same people who barred his path to Layla. They are moved by the beauty born of the very torment they inflicted. What does this expose about us? That we crave the nectar but fear the sting of the bee? That we build temples to love but exile its prophets? Majnun flees, not from Layla, but towards the only space vast enough, wild enough to hold the enormity of his feeling, the desert. Observe what happens when a human soul, stripped bare by love, rejects the artifice of tribe and tent. He becomes a stranger to his own kind, but strangely not to creation. See the gazelle freed from the snare, the stag released with a message for his beloved. Witness the raven, a dark priest in the palm tree receiving his lament. And finally, behold the impossible. The lion standing guard, the wolf and the stag laying aside ancient enmity at his side. The animals recognize a king not of power but of presence. They sense the dissolution of the predatory self, the ego consumed in the furnace of longing. Majnun hasn't lost his mind. He has shed the skin of the social animal. He embodies a harmony the sane world has forgotten. A harmony built not on domination, but on shared existence in the raw landscape of being. The wilderness doesn't tame him. It reveals the wild truth civilization tries to breed out of us. Is this madness, or is it the sanity the world has lost? Meanwhile, Layla, confined, bartered, married to Ibn Salam, a good man, they said, honorable, rich. Observe the exquisite torture of the conscious prisoner. She walks in gardens, a statue of perfect beauty, while inside a desert wider than Majnun's consumes her. She is the unyielding diamond in a gilded setting. Ibn Salam offers kingdoms but cannot touch the citadel of her soul. She endures, a monument to fidelity forged in silent internal war. Her suffering is Majnun's echoed in a different key, the agony of containment, the fire banked but not extinguished. Her letters, carried by the wind and a faithful old messenger, are not just words. They are lifelines thrown across an abyss of separation, testaments to a love that refuses to be buried alive by convention. What does her endurance reveal? That the human spirit can be caged, but its essence cannot be owned. That duty can shackle the body, but the soul's compass points only to its true north. Their final meeting, shrouded in palms, charged with a lifetime's unspent lightning. He pours out his soul in verse. She listens, a statue trembling on its plinth. Observe the unbearable tension. They are inches apart, yet separated by an ocean of what could have been and what must not be. They touch, through poetry, through shared grief, through the silent scream of recognition across the void. But flesh to flesh. The world's chains are too strong, the internalized guards too vigilant. Layla draws the line, not out of coldness, but out of a terrifying understanding that consummation in this broken world might shatter the purity of the bond, reducing it to ashes rather than letting it ascend. They part not with a kiss, but with the echo of loss sharper than any blade. Watch how this reveals love's cruel paradox. Sometimes the deepest fidelity requires an eternal distance. The flame is preserved precisely by not being allowed to consume the fuel, and then the veil falls. Layla, worn thin by the silent war within, departs. Majnun finds only cold earth where his moon once shone. His lament at her grave is not just grief. It is the final stripping away. He embraces the stone, the ultimate symbol of separation, and pours his remaining life into the dust. His animals, those faithful witnesses to his exiled truth, stand guard until his spirit flees the husk. They understand the king has joined his queen. Only then do they leave. Only then do the sane world dare approach, finding bones and dust, the final mocking reduction of a love that scorched the heavens. So, the common tale ends. The tragic lovers, united only in death, a comforting fable of passion punished, order restored. But I tell you, this is the profoundest lie. Layla and Majnun were not defeated, they were liberated. Their love was the fire that consumed the world of compromise, of propriety, of the neat, manageable lies we call sanity. Majnun's madness was the sanity of the soul unshackled. Layla's endurance was the strength of the spirit refusing to be broken. Their separation was the crucible that purified their bond beyond the need for physical possession. In their refusal to bend, to be made small, to accept the prison of the expected, they enacted a revolution of the spirit. Look around you. Look within you. Where have you built your cages? What wild, beautiful truth within yourself have you named madness and locked away for the comfort of others? What Layla do you keep veiled behind walls of duty, fear, or the cold stone of practicality? What desert have you refused to enter because the path is strewn with thorns and the company is lions? Layla and Majnun did not die for love. They lived for it fiercely, unbearably, illuminating the suffocating darkness of the ordinary with their unbearable light. Their story is not a warning against passion. It is a beacon calling us to our own unconsumed fires. So I leave you with this, fellow seekers in the night. Is the world saner for having called their fire madness? Are you richer for the treasures you have buried deep, labeled dangerous, impractical, too much? What desert waits for your footsteps? And what name will you give the lion guarding your own untamed heart when you finally dare to approach it?